Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning. I know we come from different time zones. That's why I'm using the three greetings. Some of us it is afternoon, some of us it is evening, and we could be having someone in the room from the far east who is in the morning zone. You are welcome to the 7th interactive session. This session has been postponed 2 times. Today is the 3rd attempt. And being an interactive session, we are going to discuss. And it is unfortunate that we are not many. We are not many in the room. In the studio, we are 2 of us. And you are going to get to know us, to know who is in the studio shortly. And I can see that in the general participation room, we have only 1 person. This is not for a discussion, but we are not going to postpone this again. We are going to carry it on, the 3 of us, and as we wait for others to join us, so that we do away with this. It is unfortunate that even those who asked the questions are not around. I'm sure they are not around because we could be more in the room. So we are going to start immediately, and we are starting by introducing those who are in the room. Today I will start by introducing myself. This is Sostin Subichanga, the global president of the ICFIP. I've been the lead trainer on this channel, and today we are joined by Benjamin Ntabo. Benjamin Ntabo is a seasoned investigation professional from Kenya, and I believe that is going to help us to understand some of these questions. We have 4 questions to discuss today. Question number 1, you can see it there. Question number 2, it is there. And then we have question number 3. And then next we will do question number 4, which is a bit wrong, but we are going to summarize it and discuss it. So you are all welcome, those who are around. I will give Benjamin a chance to give the opening remarks before we can start tackling the questions. You can say hi and give some few opening one.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President, for this opportunity. We do remember that for one to be a professional, there must be continuous learning and acquiring new skills, because we are aware investigation, it is dynamic, it is not static. And for that reason, then we need to be aware with the current trends of the crime, especially the digital crime. Thank you, Mr. President. Back to you.
Very much welcome, and thank you for your short remarks. I think now we can go straight to the question. We will start with question number 1. Question number 1 is about somebody. I think this question is coming because when I was training about on the documentary evidence gathering, I mentioned that it is not advisable to do the use the sampling method. You use a document here and there in order to test and come up with evidence. This is usually done in auditing, but it is inappropriate in investigation, because I said that in investigation you should identify the crime scene and correct all items of evidence or items that can be seen around for testing, and it is after testing that one can come up with those documents which can be discarded, and also identify the documents which will carry evidential value. I think this question is coming from there, and is asking, since forensic is about 100% document review and analysis, what happens in case the review was less than 100% due to missing documents? Do you still submit the report in the courts of law in the case needed? This question, I think, Benjamin, you can tackle it. The way you know from past practice, you have been in investigation for long, you can tell us whether what can happen in such a case if you have analyzed the crime scene, corrected all the items around, and you find that there are some important items missing. Do you stop there, or you still hand over the report? Over to you, Mr. Ntabur.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once the investigation report must come out, and by coming out, it will be that report should mention that some documents were missing. Then further, the report should be able to establish, or the investigator should be able to establish, who was the custodian of this document. And by establishing who was the custodian and what happened to the document, we will be able to develop another level or deeper investigation, because exhibit missing in itself is a crime. One, were the document banned? Were they destroyed? Were they stolen? That one should come out clearly from the investigation. Once we have established this document, maybe they were banned by the suspect, or the suspect destroyed the document, then we link up with the specific crime or the law that has been violated in terms of destroying or making the document to disappear. After doing that and having this one in the report, then we'll be able to proceed to court with the report having the documents available, and that the documents available being analyzed, and that the documents that are missing, which now cannot be analyzed, they'll also be reported as another offense. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. That is very precise, because the report cannot be kept or cannot be completed just because there is one documentary evidence that is missing due to the mischief of the suspect or suspects. The report will be completed, and then a note will be put in the report that one of the important items were missing. And then, as you have said, it will be up to the court now to determine whether the exhibits already analyzed and presented as evidence have the weight of evidence that can determine the direction of the case. So the report must be handed over, even if there is no 100% analysis of the documents, because documents go missing deliberately. Some can be burnt by the suspects, some can be destroyed, some can be hidden completely, and you will not find them. That cannot stop you from completing your investigation and then hand over the report, and then you leave the rest to the court to decide. And when we were discussing about the investigation report, we talked about having a section on limitations. If the missing document or documents were such that they could substantially influence the outcome of the investigation, then you can indicate there, so that it happens like it comes out like an outstanding work of investigation to be done, either by the prosecution or by the order of the court. They can decide to order that further investigation be done on that area to try and trace the missing documents, because they are considered to be important and can substantially influence the direction of the case in consideration. That is what I can say, Mr. Ntabo. I don't know whether you can add something before we move to number 2. There is only one participant in the general room, and I don't think whether he has any comment. He has not posted anything. Let us, you can chip in something if there is nothing remaining, something remaining on number 1 before we attack number 2.
We can move to number 2.
Okay, let us move to number 2. Let us move to number 2. Number 2 says, what factors to consider to have CCTV footage admissible as part of digital evidence at court of law? What factors can be considered? I think I would throw the ball to you, Benjamin. You start on this one as we wait for the other participant to see whether he has any comment to make on the comment dashboard.
Yeah, thank you. CCTV is coming quite critical in terms of collecting digital evidence. And therefore, there are several factors to consider for the digital evidence from CCTV to be admissible in a court of law. One, it is the technician, or we can call it the personnel who is collecting the evidence from CCTV. Therefore, the person should be highly trained. One, should be trained. Number 2, should be certified as a person who has the skills and the knowledge of collecting evidence from CCTV. Without that one, we will not be able, the evidence will not be able to be admissible. Number 2, having that person trained and certified is when the evidence he has collected, we can say the evidence is reliable and it is credible. And therefore, by that, the evidence collected should have a time bound. For example, we cannot have the evidence from a CCTV machine that is obsolete. In the report of that analysis of the CCTV, it should come out clear that at the time of the offense, the CCTV was functioning, the time was properly set, because the time will be able to link the suspect and the crime and the suspect and the offense or the activity that took all in that coverage of the footage. Number 2, it is the custody of the evidence once collected. The chain of that custody of the evidence should be very clear and professional for it to be accepted in a court of law. and therefore the evidence should be clear and precise for admission. We cannot take a volume of documents of CCTV in a court of law and expecting that it be admissible. We should be able to analyze to a specific being precise, then we take it to the court of law plus the suspect. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. I think you have answered that question precisely. Those in the general room, they are the ones now to tell us whether they are satisfied with the response, because that response was very precise. Because one must be qualified, the investigator must be qualified, because the court will consider who corrected the evidence, what tools were used to correct the evidence, what is the time frame within which the evidence was corrected, and then was the proper chain of custody kept. Those are the factors that will be considered before the court can admit the evidence for consideration in its support or against the case in court. Because we say that we as investigators, we do not work for the prosecution only. Sometimes you can be hired to carry out investigation to support defense, and therefore it will depend on which side you are. If you are from the prosecution, then your evidence will be considered in support of the prosecution. If you are from the defense, then your evidence will be considered in support of the defense, because you will be making arguments against the prosecution and showing proof that what they are saying did not happen. Thank you very much, Mr. Ntabul. We can now move to question number 3. Question number 3 is asking us to discuss whether employees who should have right to privacy. That is question number 3I. Witness interviews as part of workplace investigation are neither partial disposition nor a cross-examination at a trial. But at the same time, the purpose of interview is simply to elicit truth and relevant information we can discuss. So this is in 2 parts. The Simbi is asking whether employees have right to privacy, and then is asking us to discuss the purpose of interviewing employees. I will start by saying that the right to privacy for employees is relative, because it will depend on the rules of the organization. It will depend on the work environment and the circumstances of each and every case. What I do understand is that if an employee, like a senior manager, is assigned to an office with cabinets, lockable cabinets, lockable drawers, the office is always under key, and the person who has the key is the senior manager, without any other rules and the regulations about keeping that office, the senior manager will be presumed to enjoy privacy in his office, in his drawers, and his cabinets, because they are always under lock and key, and is the one who keeps the keys. And therefore, any one person that may break into that office without his presence or in his absence or without his consent may be considered an invader to his privacy, because since he's under control, he's given full control of the office. He might be keeping private items which belongs to him and him alone in the office or in the cabinets, and therefore breaking into there in his absence may lead to invasion of privacy, and this may subject of debate, especially if the organization has what we call corruption, anti-corruption, anti-fraud and corruption investigation policy. If the organization has this policy and the policy has been signed by all employees, giving the employer unlimited powers to correct any item from anywhere, even from a gadget, like a laptop, without any further consent, then this employee, however senior he is, however his office is secluded, he cannot be claiming of any privacy. Because if we signed that policy, which gives blanket consent to the employer in times of investigation, to break into the office if the key he has gone with the keys, to break into the drawers, to break into the cabinets and get out whatever they want to get, then there will be no case of invasion of privacy, because there is no expectation of privacy, because you already signed that you can be invaded anytime there is a suspicion of wrongdoing in your office, wrongdoing with your gadget, wrongdoing with whatever you have been assigned by the company. That is why it is very important that organizations have such policy, a policy that is well published and consented to by all employees by appending their signatures that they have read the policy and they have accepted to abide by it. And this policy, in case any employee goes to court to accuse anyone or the employer for invasion of privacy, then this the anti-corruption and the fraud investigation policy will come in handy in defense. This is what I can say. I think I will hand over my this chance to Benjamin, investigator Benjamin, to speak on it. I can see Simbi is now he has given some comment, and also Edwin Omondi has given some comment on the CCTV. So I will allow Benjamin some minutes to speak on number 3, part 1, before we can proceed. Double up to you. It is your.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. It is quite clear that the many acts we have in different countries, and I wish to quote the one that I use, Community Economic Act. It empowers the investigator and employer to call upon the tools. These include the laptop. If the laptop is the company laptop, that the suspect was using, it can be called upon to be analyzed without having evidence, going to court to get an affidavit. And the third one is to say, it depends now, this privacy that a person employee could be claiming the environment. If it is in the workplace, the privacy is quite limited. Because in that office, it was allocated by the employer, and the employer then can even decide to reallocate the officer from that office to another one. And the third one means, therefore, all the tools that the employee was given to use to work, referring to the integrity policy in main organization, that tool or that equipment is specifically meant for official work, not private work. Therefore, employer can call upon that item anytime and be able to check it. And the number two, why I'm saying the privacy is limited is because we have items like the payslip, which the employer generates. The employer can decide to call upon that payslip if he thinks, or if there's a suspect, if the employer suspects that there is irregular payment made to the employee, he can be able to order and they quote the payroll and they do the auditing without referring to what we are under discussion, that it is the privacy of the employee. And the last one, even personal documents, being the photocopies of the academic, the certificates, the IDs, the employer will be able, as a right, to ask for those documents to verify and to ascertain that the person in place has the right document and qualification. Again, the employer can go further and even to write to the institution that issued those certificates to ensure that they are correct certificates. Therefore, in summary, the privacy of the employee is limited in the workplace. Now, if the search is going to be done in the employee's house, that is when we can go now to court to acquire search warrant and the rest, so that we can be empowered to enter to the private premises, that is the house, or the private car of the employee to do the search. Thank you, Mr. President, and the students.
Thank you very much. That is very, very, very precise. And I think the person who asked the question is satisfied. That's what he's saying. It's powerful elaboration about employee privacy. Thank you very much. Sorry. It means he's satisfied with the response to the question. Now, but two of these questions about interviewing. Interviewing can be done by the internal organization investigators and also external investigation. Because by definition, we said that interviewing is just a structured conversation to elicit information, to gather information. Interview can be done by any person, whether they are working as internal investigators or external investigators. And therefore, employees can be asked questions that will lead to an information gathering for the purposes of investigation. It is not, it is something that is a legal process. As long as it follows the law, no one is bullied, then interviewing can be done with employees. Before we move to number 4, Edwin Omondi from Kenya, a student of CFIP, is asking a question here. CCTVs have a storage which stores or recorded events which anyone can play and view. Which kind of qualifications will be required from the person collecting evidence from CCTV? This is the question Edwin Omondi is asking as a student of professional investigation. I will throw the ball back again to Investigator Benjamin to try to respond, because you did number 2 very well, and I think you can respond to this briefly before we move to other questions.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Edwin, also thank you for asking this question. It is true, the CCTV has the ability to store the record and record the footages and even the sounds. But remember, and anybody can be able to see even with the naked eyes. But remember also the CCTVs can be interfered. They can be manipulated. And that is why the court is very specific that even when the internal investigator of an organization collects this evidence and the CCTV, he has to get the people from the forensic lab. That is, for example, in Kenya and in other country, this forensic people who can be able to analyze and interpret the footages, they are required to analyze, to take this evidence to the lab, analyze, summarize, and then write it down in a presentable manner that it is consumable to anybody that needs that evidence. Remember, if it goes straight from the CCTV, even the court will be demanding, because remember, this is an open court that everybody should be able to understand. Then the evidence should be made clear and simple for every other person to be able to understand. Now, you are asking on the qualification that one is required to acquire on CCTV. The qualification are many, depending now on the line of learning you have taken. One need to get certification in specific area like the CCTV, and therefore that is to say, on this qualification, I give it to Mr. President because it's a quite large field. That those who are able to monitor the CCTV. Number 2, that those who are coming to collect, that those who are fixing the CCTV. And now, at any given level, when we are doing the investigation, if the CCTV was not correctly fixed, monitored in the right place with the right camera for specific collection of evidence, there be a challenge in terms of this evidence being admitted in a court of law. Thank you. Back to Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. The qualification here will range from technical CCTV installation, expertise, to digital forensics. So if what the court requires is that you have to prove that you are qualified as an expert in that area, and you can be able to demonstrate, what the court wants to see is that you used appropriate tools to analyze the CCTV so that you come out with the evidence that does not have any much doubt that you are qualified, you are trained in that area. You have both the technical and the professional experience in investigation in that area. So it will range from the technical CCTV handling, CCTV engineering, to digital forensics. Next is a comment from CFIP Raymond Mundu. Raymond Mundu comes from Uganda, is the country director. He's not in the studio today. He had a technical hitch. He could not join us, but is participating from the general training room. That is what he's saying. Thanks to all members who have met today to participate. I am also following online. Then he goes to say this. To supplement to what others have said, privacy is limited to private investigation, but during investigations directed towards what the employee has been doing on behalf of the company. What he's saying here is that when you are investigating what the employee has been doing for the company or against the company, then there is much less privacy that can be expected there. He has to be able to give way to all information to be accessed, so that it is assessed whether he was he was doing his work according to policies and regulations, or he was contravening the rules and therefore perpetrating fraud or corruption in the organization. Then Mundu goes on to say this. That's what he say. No, this is now Simbi. He's saying this. Responding to a twin CFIP specialist have the special qualification to retrieve the information and they should be accompanied by IT specialist who specializes on that. CFIP have a module on that. Yes, there is a module on CFIP that deals with digital forensics. This will give you a rough idea. But if you are collecting evidence that touches on CCTV, then you are going to recruit a specialized person who knows how the CCTV works, from installation, as investigator Benjamin said, from investigation to the analysis of the CCTV footages, so that the court can be convinced that the work of investigation was handled by trained and experienced expert. The Edwin is saying this. That is what he's saying. And then we come back to Simbi. I remember we have a module covering computer digital forensic. Yes, it is there and very extensive. This very extensive module. The digital forensics module, as part of the CFIP training, is one of the largest modules which extensively deals with all manner of digital forensics analysis. Now, if there are no other comments, I want us to move from this slide to slide number 2. We discuss question number 4.
Yeah, Mr. President, I wish to make a comment on question 3B. The comment also, the last factor once the court might be considering when you are the CCTVs audited, because every organization should have a program to audit the CCTV. In many organizations, it is quarterly, and a certificate is issued that these CCTVs are in good condition, and therefore they valid for the intended purpose of capturing the evidence or the activities which is happening. Minus that report, minus that auditing of the CCTV, it will be a big challenge when the report is being submitted to court. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Investigator Benjamin. That is something I didn't know, but now I know that when you are investigating around the CCTV, you must also inquire into the auditing of those CCTV and even ask for the recent certificate of that auditing, which confirms that the CCTV were audited and were found to be not only properly installed, but they were working well. Thank you very much. That is a good point, which has made me to run. So now let us move to number 4, which is the last, so that we complete in time. We just have 1 hour and only 19 minutes are remaining. Let us say you have been hired to offer forensic services. As part of evidence gathering, you conduct interviews with employees. Unfortunately, the organization would have already dismissed, suspended that employee from work. And on inviting him or her to an inquiry interview, he or she tells you that I am no longer an employee of that organization, and he or she refuses to divulge any information to you as the forensic auditor. So how do you deal with an employee who refuses to either come for an interview or totally fails to cooperate to giving answers to any question? Very good. These are very, very, very practical question, and I think investigators in the room have come across this kind of challenges practically. So let us now respond. Those who are in the general room, training room, please start posting your comments on this question as Benjamin reads us in responding to this question from the studio. Benjamin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Many times when an employee has been fired or suspended, emotionally they become very emotional and they will not want to give any information because they feel there's nothing they're going to lose. After all, they have been dismissed or suspended. Therefore, in line with what we have been discussing on the privacy, the employer, in line with the investigator, he can proceed and start investigating all the activities that are suspected that the employee has been handling on behalf of the employer. One, he can start checking the login to the computer and the several gadgets that the employee was handling. And that is to say, the official email, which the company investigator does not need an affidavit to investigate. He can start checking from those ones. Further, he will move to all the transactions that the employee has been doing. Further, depending on the accusation or the suspected fraud, now the investigator can go to court and with the help of the local investigators, they get affidavit. Let us say it is suspected that the employee had made some fraudulent payment to his account or account, then he can involve the court to get the affidavit, that is the authority, to investigate the accounts of this employee. And I've said also to investigate the emails. Now from there, the employee, of course, who is not willing to talk, who is not willing to be interviewed, he can now be summoned with the basis of having evidence that has been corrected. Now he will be summoned or be arrested to come and answer, and the statements being recorded on the evidence which have already been recorded. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Investigator Benjamin. That is very precise. And in fact, this is a very practical question and very challenging because I've seen two cases which touches on this kind of scenario. One case was the worst because when fraud occurred in an organization and the workshop accountant was involved in extensive fraud in the workshop accounting area, what the organization did is to immediately suspend him. They suspended him. He walked it out free because they just told him, just go. We will call you after 2 weeks. When the internal investigators came in, the internal auditors and the internal security people, when they came in to investigate, it was not easy because he had the passwords to the computers at the workshop. No one knew the passwords. No one knew the documents where they are kept. Some of them he had destroyed. Some of them carried to his house. And the investigation became very difficult for the internal investigators. What they did is to apply to the management to allow them go and call the person to come back before the 2 weeks. So they sent someone who went straight to the home of the suspect. He met him and told him that you are required to come back to the organization. What he asked was, have they failed to investigate? They said I had stolen. Why are they calling me back before the 2 weeks they gave me? That is the question he asked. Then the person told him, I don't know. You just let us go. There's no problem. Let us go. They want to talk to you. So what he told this person was even shocking. He told him, go and tell them that if they are foolish investigators and they cannot find out what I did without me helping them, let them pack up and go to where they came from. With me, I have nothing to do with that company. I've taken enough and I have nothing to do with it. I'm satisfied with what I've taken. I will never come back to that employment again. So immediately the messenger left to take the message back that the person has refused to come to answer to some questions. This person took off. And when later on they decided to go and look for him with the police so that he comes back to answer questions under custody, he was nowhere to be found. He had run away. So they did what they could do, and they gave him the report, which did not have much, because the gentleman had done the fraud over several years, hiding, destroying documents, and they could not make the construct the whole thing without him answering some questions. So this is usually a challenge, and this is why when I went to audit in one of the medium-sized marketing agencies here in Kenya, I went to carry out a forensic audit. I was the lead investigator. And when we went there, I found that the finance manager was in control of everything. The good thing is that they had not suspended him. So when the CEO was taking us around, he took us to his office and to introduce us as forensic auditors to him. And he was given a chance to explain himself, to sort of introduce himself to us. He looked like he was almost forgetting his names. He was just shaky and very intimidated. So I looked at him and I saw a challenge. Immediately we came out of his office, the CEO proposed that he sends him on compulsory leave until we complete the investigation. I told him no, this is going to make our work more difficult because, as I have seen from the brief introduction, this gentleman is in charge of everything here. He's in charge from withdrawing cash from the bank, entering channels, doing everything. He had a skeleton staff and therefore was doing almost everything. He was the person who knew where the files were, all entries in. He was the one who was in charge. He knew how they were moving. So I told the CEO, let this person be here. He's not going to interfere with anything. And if interferes with anything, then that will be more evidence that is a suspect of the wrongdoing that is under investigation. He asked me how I could work with him to get the information I wanted. I told him that is my training. Just leave him to me. I worked with that gentleman. We worked with him. He gave us all the information. And what was surprising enough, the information he gave us implicated some of the directors. Directors were using him to draw cash from the bank to the tune of 2 million, 2.5 million, 3 million to give to them to use on their own private business without accounting for that money. We got all the information. As he was implicating the directors, he also implicated himself. He was directing the center of the fraud perpetration because it came out very clear that he was also sharing the route. He brings from the bank 2.5, he takes 500, he gives 2 million to the director. The director uses the money without accounting for it. He uses the 500,000 without accounting for it. And in fact, he had worked in that organization for already 2 years, and he had built a mansion in his home area, Kericho, a mansion. And at home, he was being referred to as Honorable MP because he had built a nice house better than a local member, representative, member of parliament. So when we tried to seek permission from the CEO to interview the directors, there were 3 of them, those who were implicated. The CEO obstructed us. He said, no, if you go to that extent, you are going to open a Pandora's box. I don't know what he meant by Pandora's box. You are going to open a Pandora's box here. So stop there. Stop there. Give me the recommendation, and I will deal with this finance person. I'm going to dismiss him. We recommended that he be dismissed, and then the case forwarded for prosecution, and we were to support the prosecution, but the CEO says no, we are not going to do it. So the point I want to bring is that this kind of careless suspension of suspects can make some cases complicated. Like in the first instance, I told you, the case became very difficult. They could not make anything. They could not reconstruct anything. So they never went. They never made any progress. They stopped there, and that was all. The person ran away with the millions he had stolen. That is the point I want to make. That sometimes it is not wise to be suspending people. What I do advise is that let them be around. But if there are some systems they can interfere with, like the computer systems, have backups. Let them play with that system. That what they will do, the tallying, or the alterations they will do as you carry out the investigation will come out as clear evidence that these people are criminals. And it's better you do the backup even without them knowing. Let them stay around, answer the questions, give you the evidence, do the alterations, and then you catch them on them. If they did mistakes honestly, why were they trying to cover it up by passing some channels, by passing some entries to cover up as the investigation was going on? That will form part of your evidence that those people had the intention to defraud, and therefore they wanted to cover up their tracks. That's what I can advise. And I can see some people have commented here. This is Pascal Mobosi. He's talking about digital forensics, and then he's saying that another important qualification you need as digital forensic is to be able to present the information obeying the rule of evidence. Your procedure and the method of analysis is important. That is okay, Basco. That's very precise. It adds to what Benjamin Dabo had said, commented on the uh, presentation of CCTV evidence. You must follow the law. The law must always be followed in investigation. And then we have uh, we we have Simbi. Sure, it is difficult to have full cooperation from dismissed employee. Maybe to break the ice, the case also has to be reported to the police since they have all of the exclusive powers to investigate and even arrest. Yeah, it is true. But in the case I quoted, the case was later on referred to the police, but they could not find him. They had already alerted him that he was the main suspect. So he ran away and they hid properly. They could not get him. Mm. It would have been better they kept him around. And once they got something like some certainty that this person is a suspect, then you call in the police, you take him. You take him in so that he answers some questions, the rest of the questions under custody. Okay. Any other question? I think we have a minute or two. Let me give the chance to Benjamin to give us the closing remarks. And as you in the general training room, also prepare your closing remarks, closing comments in 1 or 2 minutes, and then we wind up. Benjamin, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I want to comment on this why employees dismissed and they runs off. The key problem, it is the internal control of the organization. If the organization has a clear internal control, the fraud will be minimal. And this internal control, we are saying the separation of duties. For example, one cannot be able to be the accountant, is the person who withdraws the money, is the person who accounts for the money, is the cashier who does the payment. Where the person is a one-man show, frauds are likely to be more. And another one is separation of duties, where this person, the duties are separated, and also rotation, where a person is in one position for so long without rotating, frauds are likely to occur. So I could want to encourage everybody in the room that investigation is dynamic, and therefore this one calls for continuous training and learning from others. Thank you. Back to Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for your closing remarks. I can see Mutu from Uganda, the country director Uganda, is also saying special thanks to all who have met it to the end. I encourage members to keep the momentum high. Discussions on the way forward. Thanks to Benjamin and the president for taking the lead today. I would also like to urge you, or urge all of us, that these kind of interactive sessions are more informative and more educative than even the lectures which we do. Because this, when we discuss these questions, we sort practical challenges. We equip ourselves with the skills or the knowledge that we can use when we are faced with this kind of practical challenges. This is the most important part of this training, these interactive sessions. Let us keep them coming. If you have a challenging practical question, let me have it so that we settle another meeting. We will be correcting questions for the 8th interactive session next time. So any question you come across at your workplace, at your if you are in a class, whatever you face and you feel it is not properly cleared, explained from the study back or from the lecturer, let us have it and then discuss it together as students and seasoned professionals, so that we can get more knowledge and we can get even confirmation. We do, because this kind of thing, this kind of training goes also to confirm what we know and what we are doing right. It also goes to make correction to what we understand wrongly and what we are doing wrongly, so that we become perfect in our work. Thank you very much. Time is up. I don't know to take your time for granted, especially Benjamin, who came to the studio to assist me in reading this discussion. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you.